Hi everyone, welcome to another podcast of No Code Work. Today we have with us Pieter Moeremans, the co-founder of BuildMore. Hi Peter, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show. And how is your week going?
It's going great. Yeah, currently at a hackathon. So yeah, it feels like I feel like a fish in the water here.
Okay, you seems very busy because I was researching about you. So before we start, can you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself, your journey, and what led you to co-founding BuildMore?
Yeah. So basically, my journey, let's say, into low, no, and AI code, basically started during COVID. Because pre-COVID, I actually had my first startup that was active in the relocation industry. So we helped a lot of expats to move from point X to point Y. But during COVID, of course, that market entirely plummeted. And yeah, for me, that was the first time that I had nothing to do. Before COVID, I actually had a team of almost 10 developers working on a product, and my focus was more on sales and business development. I also have a background as a functional analyst before that. And then during COVID, I really basically had to recreate the thing that we already built entirely using custom code, Node.js and Angular. And basically during COVID, I really plunged myself into the world of no code, started to build my own products on my own. And to my own astonishment, within 2 months or so, I had my first working version of what I had before. Then basically COVID lasted longer than anyone anticipated. So I ended up more and more products for other people, for other startups. And then that ended up founding a first agency called Codeless. I did that together with a partner, and after 2 years, we grew the company a little bit, and then I sold my shares to my co-founding partners. And then in 2022, I met up with Olivier, who was a freelancer at the time. I already had some experience working with him, and together we really decided to just, let's join forces and let's start working on building stuff together, with the focus of course, building as efficient as possible. We really had a fetish of doing very short development tracks. In the beginning, only using no codes, and then gradually we started using AI for all sorts of stuff, not just for the coding part, but also for actually optimizing our own processes. Because it's one thing to code using AI; it's another thing to also have efficient processes. And that's basically what BuildMore is. We really have, I call it an AI-ready agency. So basically everything that we do is AI first, and we really try to be one of those agencies that is at the front line of how far we can push AI as well.
So currently, because since you had a long journey, you mentioned about COVID and how it affected you personally as well. How many people are there currently in BuildMore?
Well, in BuildMore, we're a fairly small team, but I always like to say that we have some AI employees on top of that. Here in Belgium, the team consists out of 4 people, 2 of which are entirely focused on the commercial side of things. We do all project management and part of the development in Belgium, and then part of the development is also done by freelancers that are outside of Belgium.
Okay.
So there are a few
great.
people outside of the core team as well.
Yeah, kind of an outsourcing that you have done, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So because you mentioned that you were into coding, right? And someone who has been into traditional coding and then moving to no code, usually developers have this idea of, you can say they see no coders a little inferior because, those who are traditional coders, they don't think no coding is a thing. So why did it shift? Do you have that mindset, or did you had that mindset?
Well, my experience pre-COVID with classic code was more as a functional analyst and from a CTO role point of view. I'm not a classic coder as a background, or that's not my background. I'm more from the commercial functional side. So for me, moving to no code and low code felt very natural because basically what you're doing is, keeping the business in mind, focusing first on the business and the processes, and technology is basically, a means to an end and not an end to the means. So their result for me was a very logical step coming from this functional analyst background to move into no-code, low-code. But of course, I noticed, especially when hiring people, there's still a lot of misconceptions. When doing sales as well, a lot of people have their own ideas about, what higher programming languages like low and no code and AI coding are. And they typically stem back from, the early days of these technologies when everything that was built using no code looked like, a nightmare from the 90s. And that's just not true nowadays. Low no code has had a long maturing period. And these technologies are up for the challenge. They are scalable. They can produce custom designs that look beautiful, pixel perfect. There's pretty much anything that you can do with low and no code these days. I would even say 90% of all applications that we see can be built entirely production level, scalable, using these technologies. So it's hard for me as well to always, end up in these discussions with people who come from the classic coder side of things. There are a few that, I always say, if you have a classic coding background and you move to the low and no code or AI code, you're someone with superpowers, because basically, if it doesn't work using low and no code, you can still revert back to custom coding. And you are probably one of the fastest low no code developers out there. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when I was, researching about you, I went to your LinkedIn, I saw some pictures. I see that you attend a lot of hackathons, events. You attended this Belgian no code event also. How was it? How was, meeting with other founders? Is there any insights that you can share with people, right?
Yeah, actually, together with some other people, I started No Code Belgium because we really had the sense that there weren't that many user groups or groups of low code developers and enthusiasts in Belgium. You do have more mature communities in France, in the Netherlands, in Germany. So we try to do the same in Belgium, or we do the same in Belgium, basically. And now we have a group about 400 people are in our lists who sometimes attend some of our events. So it's always very rewarding to meet up with other enthusiasts and to talk a bit more about, what the next step is, instead of having these eternal discussions with some other people who are stuck in the past where you're still convincing them about, the basics of low and no code. That's the beauty of those events. You're looking forward instead of looking backwards. And that's something that always brings me a lot of energy as well.
And I saw that you met Bubble co-founder Emmanuel also. So how was meeting him?
A few times, yeah. It's always fun to meet up a French guy somewhere totally elsewhere. I think the stories of Bubble as well. Basically having Jos Haas, who is also basically from Dutch descendants, and Emmanuel, who came from Paris, founding a company in the US, and then not having European servers. I think it's always a bit of the joke that I make. But they're very inspiring people to meet up with. And I think the story that they've written with Bubble, from the roots up, they walk the talk, basically, bootstrapping wise. What they did is just amazing. I have the utmost respect for Emmanuel and Josh.
Yeah, that's lovely. And since we are talking about Bubble, there are several tools that are available in the market, like no-code tools. We have Flutterflow, Framework. Have you tried, or your team has tried other tools as well, or you guys just stick to Bubble? Because major community just stick with Bubble, though now there are several tools which are available, which provides better animation, templates, etc.
We when I first started out with low and no code, I actually did a test drive of about 50 tools to actually make up my mind, like, okay, what what direction will I be heading with the first agency that I started. And I think, I mean, it's always a choice as an agency or as a company to go for one technology and to some extent stick with it without being blind for the evolutions on the market. What we have internally is we make a decision every other quarter. We review what we've done and what is needed or requested by our clients, and based on that, we actually chase or pick technologies that we're certain of that they will exist in a year from now or in a few years from now, and that have a sound basis to build on for our clients. Of course, the vibe coding trend, it has not escaped our attention, like many agencies, and like a lot of bubble and no-code agencies, we also work with technologies like Lovable to do part of the work. What I typically like to do there is combining a framework like Lovable to build the front end, and then combine it with a more, what I would say, secure and stable or known backend in low code, so that you have the certainty and the guarantees of a low code, no code engine, but you can combine it with a very fast iteration front end wise. That's for us a thing that we're doing for, I would say, 1 in 3 projects right now. But again, there it's also a matter of making some choices, and I do see that there's like a convergence. If you look at all the low no-code tools out there, if you look at the landing pages of Bubble, Lovable, Bolt, Airtable, it doesn't matter. All of them are starting to look exactly the same. You know, you have one big prompt and you can start your project from a prompt. So I think it's a good thing that we have this convergence in terms of like what direction we're heading in terms of ways of developing, and yeah, I mean, I can only applaud, you know, as a developer as well, that things are starting to look like each other, so that there's an easy way to pick up the next technology because everything starts to look very similar, in my opinion.
Yeah, but there is a bunch of people that still think that no code, like there's a notion that no code is just for MVPs. Do you agree with it? Because since you have been involved in so many projects now, do you think that there are certain limitations with no code tools that no code tools cannot be that much scalable, cannot handle mass users? Do you think that?
Well, typically it's not that much about scalability. I mean, that's an argument that I see less and less, and also in the decisions that we make technology-wise, that's less of an issue. What still is an issue, and that has more to do with the types of clients that you can try to get. If you're working for a government or if you're working for a hospital, things like HIPAA compliance, things like having their own servers, having the highest possible standards, and sometimes impossible standards, because you cannot host your own instance of Bubble, you cannot host, you know, locally. Right. So that's just a matter of, you know, how our clients put their requirements, and those are, in my opinion, the real showstoppers. Also, feature-wise, some features are easily done in low and no-code environments, others are not. So it's always a matter of, you know, checking which project has the best fit with which technology. Having said that, I mean, the notion of you know, low and no code is only for MVPs, I would say differently. I mean, low and no code is just the go-to and the leading technology for MVPs and POCs. If you're building it in another way, you're just being dumb and irresponsible with your money. Yeah. And then on top of that, you know, there are a lot of projects that can be built in low and no code where the business case makes sense. But, you know, I'm also realistic. Not everything can be built in low and no code stacks. You do sometimes need either to make a combination of the both or go for an entirely fully custom project. That is just, you know, reality. But it's no longer the case that that's for a minority of projects or, yeah, I mean.
Since you also said that, you know, you are realistic that some of the things cannot be built on no code, and which fairly makes sense. There are also instances that there is a notion that no code is fairly very slow comparatively to traditional coding websites, because see, the user retention is very very crucial, and when it comes to user retention, the website has to be fast, it has to load in milliseconds. So you think there is a challenge with, like, can you agree with that? There is a challenge with no code on this side?
Yeah, in terms of loading times, I mean, I do think there most of the products that we built, I mean, there are ways to also optimize your no-code builds. So sometimes it's just a matter of, optimizing your no-code code, sort of say. But at the same time, if you need split-second load times, classic no-code out of the box is not, the way forward for you. And if that is a business requirement, then, again, that would be one of the checkboxes that we say, like, yeah, either for a certain part we'll need another technology, or your project should be built using a more classic framework where you have the full control over everything. It comes together with, going up the ladder of, up the ladder in the evolution of programming language. It's a higher programming language, meaning that everything gets translated downwards. So there are certain things that are slightly less efficient, but at the same time, computing power is becoming less and less expensive. So combine those two trends, and going forward, I don't think that will be a big argument. And again, for a lot of projects that we see, they don't care about split-second load times, as long as the application works, if it's maintainable, if it's affordable. Those things weigh much more than having split-second load times for a lot of projects, not all projects.
Okay, but there is, if we tackle the time frame, then there comes, are these websites SEO friendly? Because now the traffic is very crucial. The website has to be SEO, and then there is a thing that you can optimize no code size to a certain level, and after that you cannot optimize as much. So getting traffics, that can become a little difficult. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I would never use a pure no-code web application builder for SEO optimization to begin with. So again, it starts from the project, and if your aim is really, to be a marketing website, there's plenty of website builders, dedicated website builders, and there's other routes that you can take that are much more suited to what you need than trying to build an SEO optimized bubble app or whatever other app you had in mind. So again, there as well, I mean, typically what we see a lot, if people want to build a web application but SEO is important, you just build a website next to your web application, which is, in my book, a good practice to have. And then you have all the flexibility marketing-wise to put your content and blogs. But in my view, that's not necessarily something you want to put inside of a web application.
Okay. And then, since you were mentioning about AI and how your team has that AI capability, when it comes to no code, do you think that AI is a threat to no code, or do you think it's something that AI and no code can be merged together? What do you see as a future for no code?
Well, they're already merging together, so there's no stopping that. I don't think it's threats for the companies that do not change. But again, we're in a market, and most low and no code frameworks do realize that this is the future and that we're heading that way. So the main question there will be, who will end up being the winner of this rat race that we're all in, trying to go to the almost fully automated development process. I don't necessarily see it as a threat, more as the next step, and that's what I see with most
the tools that are there. So we talk about Lovable. What Lovable achieved is very different the fastest era. Now then we have Bubble. Do you think that with tools like Lovable, Replit, and these tools keep coming in, the existing tools like Bubble, Flutterflow, Framer will deem to exist? Do you feel that?
Well, in my view, and that's a personal opinion, I think one thing I've seen in Lovable is that some of the features that you have by default in almost all no-code builders, they're adding on those features. So they're actually, again, converging towards what no-code already had in place. But at the same time, some things are just not efficient as solely as a prompt. And more specifically, if I have a visual interface, I want to have full control over, tweaking certain pixels or changing certain degrees. And there's still like a gap between what the no-code capabilities today are and what, let's say, the fully AI builders capabilities are. In my view, we'll end up somewhere in the middle, and the question will be: will Lovable add on no-code features gradually and move in that direction, or will Bubble and the other ones, catch up and have generations of websites and web applications that are on the same level as what you can see right now in Lovable? So again, they're converging, and I'm not sure. I mean, whether one or the other will win. Probably we'll have a few players that survive, and our job as an agency as well is picking the right ones, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. But since we're talking about AI lovable, do you think that the platforms that are currently in does have the capabilities of a good backend? Because what happens, you can write the prompt, everything looks good outside, but when you go in the backend, you see that it's really messed up. Do you feel that they still need to enhance a lot?
Well, I think the threat with Lovable that total novice developers who build applications for the first time will build something awful, and even dangerous is slightly bigger using Lovable than Bubble. It's maybe not an answer to your question, but I think it starts from there. Starting from where Bubble is right now, I think they have a good starting point to actually even beat Lovable. They're actually releasing 2 days from now. No, tomorrow. Sorry, we're already the 15th. They're coming out with a new AI generator. If it's up to the same level as what you have in Lovable, and they improve it even further, I mean, why not? So, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that AI generator, which you're talking about that Bubble is launching tomorrow?
Well, they haven't disclosed that much about it yet. But in essence, it sounds like it's basically a prompting interface, not just for generating an app. That's already something they have, but I'm thinking that they'll probably improve the one they have right now. But it feels like they're going to introduce an interface to some extent that looks like the one that you have in Lovable, where you can just make changes to the app using some prompts.
That will be great because Bubble is already, they work on drag and drop functionality. So I think that can be a really good add-on, I feel. And with Bubble giving so much capability.
That's the whole point. I mean, in Lovable, the thing I hate most is, I mean, if you know what you're doing in Lovable, I mean, that's also a thing, but I'll park that right now. But in Lovable, if you have to make some pixel changes or gradient changes, you don't want to prompt 20 times, change this, change that. There is a basic editor, but it doesn't have all the functions that you have in a no-code editor. So for those last few clicks, I mean, it's sometimes faster to just do a right click and make some changes than writing out an entire prompt, waiting a few seconds. I mean, developer flow wise, that's just, bad practice. If I have to wait a minute and a half to change a simple color, sorry, but you lost me. So I really believe in the middle ground where we have the best of both worlds. And it just makes sense. And I think all the players on the market are seeing that, and they're all moving towards that direction.
Yeah, no, that's correct. Because as a developer, you don't want to be, prompting, and developers have really, that much focus, right? So I think it's probably easy for them to do that. on the entrepreneur's point of view and side, could you tell someone who is, starting a business, because you have so much of experience now, how can they start with something? Because you mentioned that you started with codeless and then you moved to, this, you had the partnerships, you got people. So, someone is trying to, get into this industry, how can they get in?
You mean in the low and no code industry, or?
Yeah, maybe developing an agency, creating an agency, maybe no code side, or like that. So,
well, I mean, and that goes a bit broader, but you start by going to some events where you meet up with other people, maybe find a partner in crime, because in essence, I mean, building an agency on yourself can be quite lonely. I always say it's. I think if you look at the statistics as well, the successes of startups and starting companies that start up, there's actually a correlation. The more founders you have, the better your chances are. Of course, there's a tipping point somewhere around 4 or 5 in the statistics. If you go beyond that, then you're probably having more meetings and bickering more rather than doing something productive. But I do believe in entrepreneurship with someone on your side, together with other people, more than doing it as a sole entrepreneur. I did that already a few times, and my preference is really to go not as a solo entrepreneur through these projects.
Is it too difficult? There is so much risk associated with it. Do you feel that?
Well, you're sometimes in a vacuum if you're a solo entrepreneur. And it's good to have not only a sounding board, someone who you can discuss certain things with that you have no one else to discuss with. And again, if you're having a down day, you have someone else to pick you up, and vice versa. And yeah, I think that dynamic, I see it a lot in other companies, in other startups, and it just works. Again, maybe someone who sees this podcast or listens to this podcast will be like, okay, but I'm a lone wolf. Fine, but people in general are social animals. So I think it makes sense to start up a company and start by looking, who will. It never kills you to have a few discussions and to have open conversations about, I want to go in this direction, that direction. I myself as well, I started going to a lot of network events when I started out with my first company. And I really feel that a lot of those events, gave me not only a bunch of good feedback, but, I also met up with some potential co-founders. So, I mean, go out, spread the ideas that you have, and don't be shy to talk openly about what you're trying to do.
So since you were talking about it can be lonely, but there are people who don't have anyone, right? They want to start on their own, but because there can be a possibility that too many people spoil the growth, or they say that if there are more minds, it's difficult to take a decision. Do you agree with that? How has been your experience?
Yeah, but if you're in a small company with only 2 or 3 people, I don't think that's necessarily a big issue. But again, we are living in the age where you can have 20 AI companions doing all sorts of stuff. So who am I to judge the person who wants to go for the solo track? I think it's a personal preference as well, but statistics show it as well that teaming up is in general a good idea. But maybe your co-founder will be an AGI.
Yeah. So just since we're ending this, one piece of advice that you would like to share with entrepreneurs, early founders, that maybe has helped you, or something that you think that if you would have known this 5 years back, it would have been better. If you would like to share some insights on that front.
Well, I mean, it's something I share with every startup client that we have, with every startup that I talk to. and that's maybe going against my own let's say interests as a software agency, but everything starts with sales. It doesn't start with the product. I have the greatest admiration for startups and companies that start from doing the sales first and then building the product gradually, rather than the inverse. My first company as well, I started out building in the MVP in the classic way, which took like half a year and 100K out of my bank account. And then I started doing sales with that product, from the idea that you first need a working thing to actually show. People don't care. I mean, what they are looking for is a solution, is something that solves their pain. And if you cannot prove as a startup or as a starting entrepreneur that you can solve a pain, why build that thing? I mean, everything starts with sales. Everything starts with the client. It's something that I failed to do the first year of as an entrepreneur myself as well. And it's a thing that I see with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially now when it's so easy to build your own product and to start building using Vibe and no code. Well, maybe it's worth it to first have a few sales conversations and then build your product based on that, rather than the inverse.
That's very unusual advice. I would say that's very, because people usually say that you have to have a product and then you have to go to market, right? And you're saying just focus on sales first.
Yeah, maybe a POC or a clickable demo is enough to kind of start a conversation, but you don't need a finalized, perfect production level product. As long as you're there by the time that your clients start using it, that's the only thing that matters. And again, we're also at the same time, with this day and age, with no code, you can build stuff in a few days or a few weeks. So by the time that you're launching your client, you have built your product. So why build it first and then start selling?
Yeah, and maybe there can be too much perfection. You will never eventually launch the product, because it happens with too many clients.
And you're building something based on your own ideas, not the ideas of your clients. But you're not the one paying the bills. Your clients are. So
yeah. And my last question to you: if someone who wants to reach out to you for development services on no code, how can they reach out to you?
Well, we have a website, build-more.be, but I'm also very much active on LinkedIn. So if they just type in my name, Pieter Moeremans, they'll probably find it. I'm an easy to reach guy.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so thank you, Pieter. Thank you for joining us. It was a great, incredible session. It was really unusual advices that you gave us, and very insightful, I feel, because we talked about how the early founders should go out, talk to people, and they'll build confidence, they'll get the ideas, they'll eventually meet more people, and they'll get a direction from there. We talked about no code and how it can leverage, we can leverage AI. And then you talked about sales. I think how crucial it is for, instead of spending too much money on the product, just have something, go to the market, see how it's a product is a fit for the market or not, right? It was very, I think, incredible session. So yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.